Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I'd like to sincerely welcome you in the EP lab of the Cardiac Center in České Budějovice, Czech Republic. Today we will focus on the new software version of the Carto 3D mapping system, version 7. The Carto 3 version 7 Carto Prime brings many innovative changes. First, in general, much more efficient data collection is possible with the version 7, since this version enables us to create up to 60,000 points in up to 35 different maps. One map is limited with maximum of 15,000 points, while in previous versions it was only 7,000 points. Also, when using fast anatomical mapping, fan velocity filter was added to prevent unnecessary fan volume acquisition when fast electrode movement occurs over curved anatomical structures. Last but not least, the improved power reject filters significantly improve quality of the ECG signals. Our today's case is a patient with frequent ventricular ectopy arising from the outflow tract, and I'd like to demonstrate some very useful features which make these kind of procedures much more precise. First of all, advanced reference annotation. The advanced reference annotation is a novel, multi-channel algorithm providing robust and reliable determination of time zero. The legacy reference annotation performs well in most cases. However, its performance deteriorates in complex situations, such as multiple peaks to QRS morphology, resulting in jumping from peak to peak. For instance, if you select maximum value on V1 channel, you may observe that annotation is frequently unreliable, making precise mapping virtually impossible. To activate ARA, simply select criterion Automatic and Chamber of Interest Ventricle. You may immediately observe the very reliable annotation both in sinus rhythm and in ventricle premature beats. This is due to the fact that body surface ARA uses all predominant channels from the precordial signals V1 to V6 and determines a mutual energy, creating a unique activation signature. The reference annotation is then placed in the center of energy of the activation signature. The function that we want to demonstrate now is the LUT hybrid, which provides increased PVC mapping location accuracy by adapting PVC activation to 3D location of normal sinus rhythm, resulting in more efficient workflow. It was nicely shown that PVC displaces the catheter location in a fixed reference frame of the 3D map. The displacement is not tip tissue dislocation, but movement of the whole system within the 3D reference and can easily exceed 10 mm depending on location. So what we need to do is to acquire both normal sinus rhythm QRS morphology and QRS morphology of the PVC. We simply use pattern matching function, and in the pattern bank we select appropriate QRS morphology matching the targeted PVC. This one is the PVC that we are searching for. We indicate the beginning and the end of the QRS. You may see the red line, which indicates the reference to which the system will compute local activation time of any acquired point. Don't be surprised if it seems located in rather weird position, like in this case, shifted a little bit rightwards. It's due to the fact that the system calculates so-called center of energy of the activation signature. For 3D location map, we need to select pattern of normal sinus QRS complex, so we can name it sinus rhythm. Finally, we tell the system to create a map which activation-wise will use data from the sensed PVCs and location-wise will use data of a normal sinus rhythm. We usually set the thresholds for both sinus rhythm and PVC to a value of 95% or higher, in our case 96%. Position stability is on with a 4 mm value, lead stability is off, and force is on due to the fact that we are using smart touch catheter during mapping, which is now located in the right ventricular outflow tract. We also use ICE, intracardiac echo, to facilitate precise maneuvering with the ablation catheter. To show you the difference between the LUT hybrid map and the conventional map, we also decided to simultaneously acquire two maps. This is also a novel feature of the V7. The left map is a hybrid map in which geometry of the map, in other words, 3D location, is determined by the position of the catheter during sinus rhythm, while the local activation time corresponds to the one of the targeted PVC. The right map is a conventional PVC activation map, as you were used to acquire so far. In this map, on the contrary to LUT hybrid map, each point corresponds both to the spatial location and local activation time of the targeted PVC. To activate simultaneous acquisition of both maps, we need to activate parallel mapping function. While right-clicking on the map, the Preferences menu pops up and the very last line is parallel mapping. After clicking on the map you want to pair, the maps become orange, which indicates that the parallel mapping function is correctly set on. So we start to map in the right ventricle outflow tract. We have to move gently with the catheter, trying not to produce too many extra beats, not corresponding to the clinical PVC. You may see that when irritated PVC occur, the pattern matching value becomes red, as the percentage of match drops below the threshold set. So in hybrid map, each point acquired is a combination of two beats. The location data comes from the preceding normal sinus rhythm beat together with whatever we have preselected: tissue proximity filter, respiration and force values, position stability filter, etc. Here the PVC beat contributes only activation and ECG signals to the hybrid point. All other data of the hybrid point are derived from normal sinus rhythm beat. If position and LUT stability filters are used, as in our case, these filters are applied on two consecutive normal sinus rhythm beats. So simply said, we need two sinus beats followed by one PVC beat to acquire one single point in LUT hybrid map. The displayed filters are valid for the hybrid map now. If we like to see filters for the conventional map, we'll simply click on the appropriate map and thereafter the system shows filters for selected map. It's quite obvious that the speed of creating of hybrid map is significantly slower compared to legacy PVC activation map, simply due to the fact that we need two sinus beats followed by the extra beat matching predefined criteria. On the other hand, the conventional activation map needs only frequent PVCs matching the predefined criteria to be reconstructed. However, the hybrid map guarantees higher spatial accuracy since 3D geometry is reconstructed from the normal sinus beats and activation is only superimposed on this 3D shell. So finally we reconstructed a limited LUT hybrid map of the right ventricle outflow tract. The earliest activation was found on the septal aspect, the area which is adjacent to the right coronary cusp of the aorta. So now I'd like to show you the difference in 3D location of a point during premature ventricle beat and the corresponding point during normal sinus rhythm. For this we added a point list in the top right corner of the screen. So let's rotate with the map a little bit and zoom the right ventricle outflow tract in. If we click on the red point with the earliest activation, its location during normal sinus rhythm is approximately 2 mm from corresponding X, Y and Z coordinates during PVC. If we click on other points, this one has almost 3.5 mm difference in location. This one, almost 5 mm difference. To summarize, since we typically navigate our catheter to the earliest point representing the point of PVC origin during normal sinus rhythm, LUT hybrid map significantly enhances our precision during PVC ablation. Our next case is a patient after epicardial thoracoscopic radiofrequency MACE procedure. This patient presented to our clinic with repetitive, long-lasting paroxysms of atrial tachycardia. He was even cardioverted several times, but always with early arrhythmia recurrence. Atrial tachycardias led to arrhythmia-induced cardiomyopathy with clinical signs and symptoms of heart failure, including severely depressed left ventricle ejection fraction, which normalized during the period of normal sinus rhythm. We have halo catheter introduced in the right atrium, showing clearly left atrial origin of the tachycardia, while the right atrium is activated passively. First, we would like to show you again ARA, Automatic Reference Annotation, this time in the atrial chamber. Again, we simply select chamber of interest right atrium and criterion automatic. Now the system correctly annotates each and every single atrial beat of the running tachycardia. Okay, so we select the window of interest. The cycle length of atrial tachycardia is 220 milliseconds. We select simply one half to the left and one half to the right from the reference point. To fasten the geometry and activation map acquisition, we will use pentarray catheter. In preferences, we select tissue proximity on, since we want to map only points close to the left atrial wall. Cycle length should be stable within the values, let's say between 200 and 230 milliseconds. We should also acquire points only when the catheter is stable with the stable location activation times. Force is irrelevant as we are using pentarray, not smart touch catheter. Density should be set to maximum. So we start acquiring points. Now we are touching the posterior left atrial wall. Of note, although the surgeons did their lesion under direct visual control, the box lesion, meaning the left atrial posterior wall isolation, is not complete and discrete electrical signals are clearly visible. We would like to show coherent mapping function, a novel algorithm incorporated in the V7 which simplifies the diagnosis of scar-related complex atrial arrhythmias by recalculating the LAT data taking into account chamber geometry, physiological barriers of conduction, zones of slow or no conduction to create a best fit solution explaining arrhythmia circuit. In a typical LAT map, every point has an individual contribution to the map coloring. In the coherent map, on the contrary, a best fit solution is calculated based on all the points on the map. This is a unique solution which simplifies understanding of the arrhythmia circuit. Basic prerequisite for a good coherent map is a satisfactory density of the points across the whole mapped chamber. Usually, it's recommended to acquire at least 1500 points during running atrial tachycardia. So we have conventional LAT map of the left atrium, here seen from the back. Here we have right pulmonary veins, interatrial septum, left atrial roof, mitral annulus, and common ostia of the left pulmonary veins. What is also very important before switching to coherent map is to delineate all possible anatomical structures or different barriers for the electrical conduction, like pulmonary vein ostia, mitral annulus, and others, as the system calculates with such barriers as electrically non-conducting. So let's have a look at the area of interest just below the right inferior pulmonary vein. Here, in the LAT map, we have all points as were automatically acquired and annotated by the system. Late points are purple-colored, early points are red-colored. So the early points are merging in the late points close to the ostium of the right inferior pulmonary vein, but as you can see, the coloring of early and late area is rather inhomogeneous. Okay, here the arrhythmia circuit could be easily elucidated even from this LAT map. Probably the re-entry travels around the right pulmonary veins. So both superior and inferior connecting lines created by the surgeons on the epicardial surface with the intention to isolate the left atrial posterior wall are incomplete, not transmural. So now we switch to coherent map. First of all, we may see large areas painted by copper color. These are areas of slow conduction, including lines of block, which are identified either by the dense scar with low bipolar voltage, or by double potentials, or finally, there is an activation with opposing vector of propagation. If the vector of propagation goes around some area, this area should be a non-conductive tissue, otherwise, the activation should go through this area. In this example, we have significantly slow conduction across the inferior connecting line, while in the roof area there is not even conduction slowing. The system is also capable of showing conduction velocity vectors. The thinner is the arrow, the faster is the conduction and vice versa. So the slowest conduction may be found in the area close to the right inferior pulmonary vein, while on the roof there is no significant conduction slowing. Here is the comparison of both maps. On the left there is a coherent map, on the right there is conventional LAT map. You may appreciate that in the coherent map on the left panel, the global activation derived from all points leads to proper delineation of the arrhythmia circuit and correct assignment of colors representing the global reentry activation. Last thing I'd like to address is a Czech animation of the propagation wave. The animation suggests that the inferior connecting line is almost complete with a discrete gap close to the right inferior pulmonary vein, which is in our experience the most frequent location of the gap after epicardial radiofrequency ablation. This gap is easy to close by a few endocardial RF applications. Most likely, this typical location of non-transmural epicardial lesion results from the accumulation of the fatty tissue in this area, as shown by some studies using high-resolution CT scans.